Dan Wolken, USA Today national columnist. His most recent column, NCAA Board of Governors opens door to athletes benefiting from name, image, and likeness. Wow. The NCAA finally got some good publicity, Dan. What do you make of all of this?
Well, it's, I think, a very long process to get to the final result. I don't think the NCAA can just kind of flip a switch and say, hey, now we're doing name, image, and likeness. They need to figure out how it's going to look and the structure and what maybe some guardrails and controls, because as Mark Emmert said, they are not interested in a model where third-party endorsements just have kind of free reign to do what they want. And I sort of understand that from their perspective, but they feel the pressure. They understand the times have changed, the legal challenges, or I should say the legislative challenges that are being presented in various states and potentially the U.S. Congress. And they know they have to act, but it was intentionally vague what they did, because the truth is they just don't know exactly what it's going to look like.
And I wonder, how do they cap this? Because I just don't know if they're going to go, hey, Tua, you can make as much money at Alabama as you want off your likeness. I just don't think that's going to happen. Or, Lawrence and Clemson, conflicts here. There's a lot of barbed wire in here, Dan.
Yeah, I don't think that the issue is so much Tua Tagovailoa is a huge name now, and he's a star, and he can go out and negotiate all these deals because of how well-known he is. I don't think that's as big of a challenge for the NCAA as the recruiting element. And that was what kept coming up in talking with a lot of the people yesterday who were trying to figure this out on a policy level. It's not so much the name, image, and likeness opportunities for current athletes. It's how do you allow that, liberalize that, while preventing it from becoming a situation where it's just boosters or people who own businesses in college towns throwing money at recruits and saying, come to this school that I root for and play for Alabama, Clemson, whoever, and we'll give you X amount of money.
Yep.
That's what they want to try to prevent. But how do you do one without the other? It's a really hard needle to thread, and I'm not sure how they're going to figure that out.
Yeah, and that's been my big concern about this from the beginning is if you know that if I go to that school or that conference, this is what I can make, or they're promising me that I'm going to make this, and therefore you might have somebody saying, yep, he's slotted to go to Arizona. Oh, nope, he's going to LSU. Well, maybe this is just more above board because we know it's gone on in a lot of these cases. So I'm just not sure. I think a player should be able to control his likeness. I just get worried that, just like you said, the boosters come in and say, you know what, if you sign with us, we got $1 million slated for you to make over the first 2 years here, and all you got to do is show up on Sundays at my car dealership.
Yeah, and look, I know there's a lot of people who will be out there saying, well, what's wrong with that? And maybe there isn't in a kind of perfect world. There's nothing that would be problematic with that. But I think in reality, when you're dealing with 16, 17-year-old kids, high school recruits, you don't know how they're going to pan out. There's a small group of the Zion Williamsons who are going to come to college and be awesome. They're going to be stars. But especially in football, you go through the rivals lists every year. A lot of these high-profile players, they don't pan out, and you get a bunch of guys like Johnny Manziel was a three-star recruit. He's not a guy who would have commanded huge money as a recruit to go to Texas A&M, but he became a big star, and because of the way he played and the way he was perceived, he could generate those opportunities. And I do think it's problematic to put a 16-year-old on or a 17-year-old that much money in their hands, bring them on a college campus with all these expectations, boosters who kind of feel like maybe they own the player. Like, there's a lot of issues there that I can understand why the NCAA's got some discomfort with that.
Do you see a scenario anytime soon in our lifetime where the NCAA is actually paying players?
No, I don't think that that's the way it's going to go down. Now, look, the one thing that they could do, and this is something that Sonny Vaccaro has talked about, and I understand the logic behind it, which is, say the colleges just said, all right, we're going to take all of our money that we get from television, from marketing, from licensing, and then we're going to just cut the athletes in on a percentage. Based on however many games they play, they get a fixed percentage. They get it maybe after they use up all their eligibility. It's in a trust for them. Maybe that kind of thing makes sense. The problem is, how do you negotiate what that percentage is? This is not unionized. It's college athletics. And, sometimes I think that would be the best thing for the NCAA is to let the athletes unionize. And then all these issues can be negotiated, collectively bargained, and you don't have to necessarily have congressional intervention the way people are talking about right now. But that doesn't seem to be the road they want to go down. But that's one potential solution is that group licensing money, and you just put it in a pot. You cut everyone a check at the end of their career, and they're essentially paid for their name, image, and likeness.
I wonder, though, Dan, down the road, and I keep thinking that maybe you have these power conferences, they secede from the NCAA, and therefore who's getting what, how much money. Let's say the 60 best teams are here, and then you could pay them. Maybe you have a relegation. Maybe somebody does earn the right. North Dakota State gets it. I don't know, but it feels like there's, and maybe seismic is hyperbole, but it feels like there's a shift that's happening at some point in college sports, certainly in football.
Well, there's a shift in the public perception. There's no doubt. There's a reason why all these politicians who never said a word about this for years are all of a sudden chiming in and jumping on this bandwagon, because the public has shifted and they feel like it's an opportunity for them to get a win, legislatively that people are going to support. Yeah. So there's no doubt that something has happened. But I think the thing that we kind of need to remember is it's not like the schools want to go pay these guys for a variety of reasons. Yeah. If they secede from the NCAA, it will be because of something like the top 30 or 50 schools could get, a massive NFL-style television deal. And just leave everyone else behind, but you would still have a regulatory body that oversees all this. Because, Dan, the one thing that I've learned in college athletics is even the smallest little rule and policy change, the power schools are not all in agreement. They have vast disagreements because they all don't trust each other to do the right thing. And it's a really interesting dynamic. They like the structure of the NCAA because they like living within those lines.
I'll leave you with this. After his first year at A&M, what do you think Johnny Manziel would have been worth? His likeness would have been worth in that area?
I'm not a marketing expert, but I mean, you'd have to think several $100,000 in national, whether it's McDonald's or Coca-Cola or whoever. I would have thought all the big companies would have probably wanted to jump on that bandwagon. And we have some guide. You look at what, kind of a mid-level star NBA player makes in shoe deal or whatever is available to them. I think that's a guide. I don't think it would be tens of millions of dollars, but could Johnny Manziel have made $1 million after winning the Heisman? No doubt. And
the same with Zion. I mean, Zion would have probably been worth more, right?
Well, and Zion's an interesting case because I don't remember the exact number, but he had over 1 million Instagram followers already before he set foot at Duke. And that's something that they talked about yesterday, which is, okay, social media. There's a huge opportunity there for a lot of these guys who have established brands who are stars. Mm-hmm. And Zion Williamson was a star on Instagram, and those guys can get paid. And I do think the NCAA is going to find ways to allow that, because that is based on a brand that a player has built essentially on their own. And that's one, I think, huge avenue for some of these star guys to come in and make a lot of money to play college sports.
Yeah, we got a long way to go on this. Dan, always great to talk to you. Thank you for joining us.
No, thanks for having me. See you.
That's Dan Wolken, USA Today national columnist.
For more Dan Patrick Show, tune into Audience Channel 239 on DirecTV. Stream for free on BR Live or download the Dan Patrick Show app.